So who here has heard of Hootsuite before? Anyone? Yes, this makes that easy. Yay, that makes me happy. All right, so obviously not here to sell you guys on Hootsuite, here to walk you through a wide variety of social channels. What we're going to start with is a little bit of strategy just to frame it, and then we'll get into a lot of the tactics, and we'll do some workshop things as well. So let me just ask, if you can just call out, which institutions are we representing today? Just yell them out.
Signature Healthcare.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, who else? Who else? One more. There we go. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I just said Parkland Medical.
Parkland Medical. Awesome. Well, thank you. Welcome. And thank you for having me. So just to put this in context, with Hootsuite, I'm a customer success executive, and in English, what that means is that I'm the strategy lead for our major enterprise accounts in the East Coast. Hootsuite's based in Vancouver, but I'm based right here in Boston, which is nice. Before I started with Hootsuite, I actually built the social media marketing program at Constant Contact. Is anyone familiar with Constant Contact? Okay, people know that. All right, and I've worked at a few startups in the Boston area as well, so I've been around for a while. So just to go over what we'll cover today. So like I said, we're going to start with just, what are the major opportunities in healthcare? And we'll step through a few of these. I won't spend too long here because I know we want to get to the tactics part. But I wanted to start off with this because this will help you formulate your strategy and start to create those strategy pillars so that when we get to the tactics, all those tactics will roll up to a particular strategy. So this is a good way to drive social adoption across your organization. I know we have 2 hours today, so we will take a bio break at some point because it's a long time to sit here. So part of that strategy analysis, we'll do a little bit of a SWOT analysis as well as some adoption strategies because, well, let me just ask, who here feels that their organization understands social really, really well and is adopting it? So we got to thank you, you played right into what I was going for. Exactly. So, and you know what, you're not alone in healthcare. Regulated industries are typically a little bit behind, say, tech and media and some of the other industries. But it is an issue with, I work with a variety of clients across verticals, and it's actually an issue in every single vertical that I've worked with. So you're not alone. So we'll talk about that as well, because that's really key to expanding your program and to meeting your goals. And then we'll get into the strategy and tactics by channel. So we'll really focus on the big three, so Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And then we'll do a lightning round and give you a few tips on Instagram, Pinterest, Google+, and YouTube as well. And hopefully I'll be able to toggle between the presentation and some live examples on these different networks, because I'd like to show you some great industry examples. So we will do that as well once we get to the tactics section. The other thing is please connect and share. Who was the one who tweeted at me and asked me about Facebook hashtags? Is she here? There we go. Okay, so we had one question on the session hashtag before we arrived, and someone asked, "What the heck is?" Well, she didn't say that. I'm extrapolating. What is the use of Facebook hashtag? So the use of any hashtag, in case you're wondering, and you can use that on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, is just to basically index and collect topics around a particular conversation. So if you're on Facebook, you can click a hashtag just like you were on Instagram or on Twitter, and all of the conversation around that, any of the content that's public that has that hashtag would show up in that stream. So something like, the most popular one that you might have seen in your Facebook stream might be TBT. Who knows what that stands for? Yeah, we know that one. Okay, great. So if you click that, you would be able to see posts that are tagged TBT. Same idea, the Facebook hashtag.
My question was really more about hashtags on Facebook specifically. I see people use that in Twitter a lot. Do people do that with Facebook?
Yes, they do. And I think it's actually a really underutilized part of Facebook. And again, it's just a way of indexing a conversation. All right, so yeah, as we go along today, just feel free to share content, connect with each other. I won't blame anyone for looking at their phone while they're, we all do it, right? So these are dangerous little things. We'll get into mobile a little bit today too. All right, so let's get started. I'll ask for questions at the end of each section, but if you have something burning, just yell it out. Someone here will be able to answer you. I also tend to think in tweetable moments, so hint, hint. So this is about online discovery. So attracting new patients by educating them as they search for health information online. So as you know, people research online first. Before they ever come to your front door, you have a virtual front door, and if people like what they see, then that virtual front door will end up being, you know, they'll come to your bricks and mortar front door. There's a huge demand for healthcare related information online. According to the Pew Internet Project, 8 in 10, 80% of internet users look online for health information. It's the third most popular thing to do online, probably behind cat videos and something else I actually won't mention right now. You can probably guess. And social visibility and engagement are actually tied to search engine results. Who knew that Google started indexing tweets again? There you go. So they used to, they stopped, and now they're back at it, right? So what does that mean? Is that tweets can actually show up as part of your Google search results, all right? But it's not a one-way street, right? So sure, social influences search results. By the way, what's the largest, who knows what the largest search engine is? Chorus, Google, right? Yeah. What's the second largest search engine? YouTube. You got it. Smart crowd here. Exactly. So you too. Give you credit too. So there's, and who owns YouTube? Google. See, it's a little incestuous. I told Antonio I didn't walk around, and I'm breaking every rule that I told, that I said. But the other thing to note here is that omni-channel is also really important. People are researching a much wider variety of sources to learn more and confirm the information that they're gathering from the internet. So according to a BIA Kelsey study, which is a research firm, in 2013, consumers consulted 7.9 different media sources when shopping for products or services in their local area. That was up from 6.5 in 2009 and 5.8 in 2008. And so basically what this means, there's a huge increase in audience fragmentation. People are consulting multiple sources. So if you think that, hey, that one Facebook page or that one blog or that one, you know, whatever it may be, that one YouTube channel is going to cut it, probably not. So think with that omni-channel in mind and related to online discovery, not just in terms of search results, but across the variety of media. This is one of my favorite quotes. The new model is about connecting into the members' life decisions when they're healthy, not necessarily when they're sick. And this is all about, you know, digital media transforming the idea of medical expertise, right? So it's transforming it from a single, you know, medical expertise is being transformed from a single authoritative, I can't say that word, authoritative. Slow down. Sorry, I do talk a little bit fast. I'll have to turn it down a bit. Source into a wide network of sites, blogs, videos, and on-demand information sources. So, but accurate information and reliable information are still pain points for consumers, right? We can all use WebMD and fall down the rabbit hole of self-diagnosis and be up at night thinking we're going to die the next day, right? But as a HCP, you know, your organizations already come with the weight of that trust. So just having your brand name and just being part of the institutions that you are a part of, you already have such a huge advantage over other sources on the internet. So 2014 study by Accenture, another research firm, almost all consumers, so 97%, I don't know what those 3% were doing, maybe they're asleep, view medical professionals as a trustworthy source of information for seeking medical advice. 89% trust health websites, 81% trust health plans, and 80% trust friends and family. So imagine if you were to combine the ability to connect or read information authored by, say, medical professionals with your online channels. What about peer-to-peer networks where people can share their healthcare experiences? You're combining the most trustworthy sources of information with the most convenient channels and the ones that people are finding you on. And from a content marketing perspective, if you've been if you're adding value, if you're a trusted resource, they'll come to you because when they have a need, you know, you'll be top of mind already. They don't have to go out searching for you. You're going to be the first one that they think of. So if you're that trusted source way before a need is acute, there's going to be no question about who they're going to go to. The other thing I'll say too is that healthcare is inherently local. So connecting with partnering organizations, businesses in the community, highlighting HCPs administrators, patients, obviously we'll get into some privacy and security concerns with that a little bit later, but that all says what tribe you're a part of. Anyone ever read that book, Tribes? Yeah, it's a good one, right? So there's all sorts of ways that you can show what tribe that you're part of by who you are connecting with, who you're highlighting, and who you're partnering with. All right. So this is about peer-to-peer connection, right? So I call this P2P enablement because this could be peers, this could be person to person. So one of the big trends, and I'm sure you guys all know this, is patients are also looking to connect with peers who have experienced similar health issues. So sharing patient stories, experiences, and offering online support. So here's some stats for you, all right? 26% of internet users, so that's a lot of people, right, because everyone uses the internet, says that they have read or watched someone else's experience about health or a medical issue in the last 12 months. 16% says that they went online in the last year to find others who might share the same health concerns as them. And this is even more so for people with chronic conditions, okay? So 1 in 4 internet users living with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart conditions, lung conditions, cancer, et cetera, have gone online to find others with similar health concerns. And there's other groups of people who are likely to look for online support, and that includes people who are having a medical crisis and people who have had a significant change in their physical health. So this could be pregnancy, weight loss or gain, or quitting smoking, for example. So there's a strong need for that peer-to-peer connection and that sort of support when they're going through an experience. Anyone heard of Patients Like Me in Cambridge? Yeah, a lot of people have. So in one study published in Epilepsy and Behavior, they showed that prior to using the site, only 1/3 of respondents did not know anyone else with epilepsy or with their condition that they could talk to. And now it's 2/3 of those people have at least one other person that they can go to as a resource for either advice or support. So the idea here is that human connection is powerful, and that empathy is healing, and that patients are seeking out and actively participating in conversations with each other. All right, so this is more of a business-focused pillar here. But attracting a new customer costs as much as 5 times as keeping an existing one. And so this is about patient loyalty and referral. And so this is about the result of great community engagement and P2P enablement. If you're not only producing good health outcomes, but if people feel positively about their experiences with your institution, and as we know, those experiences aren't just in the flesh, they're not just brick and mortar, they're also online. People are not creating a barrier or a line in their minds that say, this was my brick and mortar experience with them, and now this is my experience online. To the consumer, it's all one experience, right? And so a lot of times we make decisions with our hearts, and we justify them with our heads. And so this is what patient loyalty and referral is all about, earning trust, being helpful, and it makes good business sense too. A few more business statistics for you. So the probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70%. The probability of selling to someone who's net new is 5 to 20%. So it just makes good business sense. All right. So 2 more pillars here. One is about research and thought leadership. And is anyone here, is their institution involved in any research? Oh, we have 1. All right, so we'll just go quickly through this one. So this is about brand management and reputation. This is a huge opportunity. So a few things here is connecting to your influencers. You can reach a broad audience as well as a niche audience via social. Let me ask here, how many folks in the room do you have, raise your hand if one of your CEO or your president or anyone in a C-level position is active on social and someone you would consider an influencer online? Got a couple, that's good. But that's a big opportunity, right? Is to have the leader of your institution increase their online profile. Now, who would think that their CEO or their president would be really nervous about doing that? A couple people? Okay. So what's stopping the rest of them? They just don't know how? Disinterested. What? Time, yeah. Does anyone do a co-management of leaders' profiles? Nope. All right, we'll talk about that too. Oh, you do? What do you do?
Twitter, mostly.
Yeah, so do you, you post for him or her or in their voice? Okay. And how do you deal with it if someone responds to them? Like, do you know if they know them or? That hasn't happened yet. Well, something to think about coming up, right? Okay, good. So that's a start. And there are different ways to do that. There's different tools in the industry now. There's different ways to facilitate that sort of co-management. There's a famous saying that the personal is political, but in the age of social media, the personal is also professional, right? We all, this might sound disappointing, I guess, but we're all kind of a brand, right? And so everyone within your organization has the power to actually support the organization's brand with their personal brand and vice versa. All right, then the last thing we want to talk about is recruiting and talent. So nothing says I love you like cold hard cash. I'm kind of like that, but it won't make the best employees stay. So one of the ways that you can utilize social, and this is especially true on LinkedIn, and I've seen a lot of companies use Instagram as a really great company culture outlet as well, but showcasing your culture to attract the best talent. You know, the industry that we're talking about is known for being stressful, for having long hours, for the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. But anyone who's ever worked anywhere knows that their work environment and their coworkers can make you miserable or leave you contented. So just like there's a lot of consumer choice in the industry now, there's a lot of choice out there for the best and the brightest. And one of the great things about Boston is our healthcare industry, but that means you're all competing against each other, right? Let me ask, are there any creative ways that people have found for recruiting yet? Is recruiting something that you guys are utilizing social for yet? Yes? Who said yes? Yeah? What ways are you using it?
We have a Twitter feed. So
You have a Twitter feed?
Yeah.
You have like a hashtag jobs for, yeah?
Yeah, it's on our website too.
On your website? Okay. What about you?
We were doing targeted ads for RN recruitment.
Oh, nice. For on LinkedIn or Twitter or?
Oh, on Facebook.
On Facebook. Interesting. Very good. Okay. Some good ideas there. All right. So like I said, I wanted to go through this pretty quickly because I know we want to get to the tactics. But just as we think about the different strategy pillars, this is not exhaustive. Can anyone think of any other area that I didn't mention that they're working on or want to work on other than these 6 that we have here? Media, maybe. All right, well, this is a good start at least. So one thing I'd encourage you to think about just in terms of structuring your strategy, this will leave you with actually a really clear plan, is if you think about online discovery, right, what might you be strong in, right? So that might be, all right, we have a great blog, and so we're getting a lot of inbound hits from our blog, from search to our blog. A weakness might be, you know what, we're not so great in YouTube, we don't have any videos, and that's a missed opportunity for us in terms of search. In terms of community engagement, maybe some of you guys in the room, you have a great community manager, and you're doing everything you can to bolster that community and create content, but there's only one of you, and that person might burn out, and you're the only one in your organization doing it. What I like to say sometimes is that people will ask me all the time, hey, is Facebook good for business? Can I use Twitter for this? And I always say to them, well, is your phone good for sales? Who's the director of phone now, right? No one. It's a channel. It's a channel, right? And it's all in how you use it. It's all in how you position it. So if you only have one person who's doing social, I even hate that term, doing social at their organization, it's like having one phone, right? No one has one phone anymore. There's not one email address at an organization. But organizations are still kind of wrapping their brains around social. And there's a lot of education left to do, which is why it hasn't been adopted more broadly. So, I won't go through all of these, but in terms of, let's go to thought leadership. Again, we were talking about some of the CEOs and the leaders of your organization. If they're not out there, that's also a missed opportunity. Think of that co-branding. They're the leader of an institution. You have the power of the institution's brand. You can combine those together. So maybe the strength, maybe they have a super strong profile in the industry, but you're not utilizing it. Maybe not doing some. Does anyone know about native publishing on LinkedIn? Okay, we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about that later. But that's another way that you can utilize social to raise either your own or some of your leaders' profiles. All right. So just talk a little bit about social media adoption too, and then maybe we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll dive into all of the tactics as well. So Hootsuite, you might have seen this. I forget who was it? The actor who decided to insert himself into all of like the weird or like the stock photos. Oh yeah, it was Vince Vaughn. So when that happened, we came out with all, like Owly. This is our mascot, Owly. So we have a whole series of these stock photos with very, rigid business people with our, Owly in there. So, regardless of the industry, social typically sits within PR or marketing. Is that true here? Is everyone either in PR or marketing? It makes sense, marketing conference, right? It's its natural habitat, right? But to capitalize on the opportunity to meet patient expectations, social media, or that's another term I actually don't really like because it just feels like, if we say social media, someone just thinks we're just posting on Facebook all day, when really you need a variety of skill sets, right? I like to call it emerging technologies. I think that's better because I feel like it's broader than that.
I also think media imparts one-way communication.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem.
Totally.
That term.
Yeah, I think
it's
that you're
more
just
about relationships and community building.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan brings up a really, really good point too. Media is, you think of like broadcast media, right? It almost seems old-fashioned.
It is.
It's one way.
Old school.
Yeah, totally. Let's start it right now. We'll start a revolution. We're calling it emerging communications tech right here. The problem is that when you're doing something new and something seems to be changing all the time, you can't just have a plan. You can't just have a plan. You have to know how to sell it too. And this is really hard for organizations, and especially with regulated industries like healthcare. That challenge is even greater. So I'm going to give you some information that will help put some meat on the bones of that basic strategy we were just talking about, all the different key business areas that will help you have those conversations internally with either your leadership or other allies within your organization. All right. So this is a study by Gartner. The risks of embracing new social technology are pretty high. So a quarter of businesses will lose market position if they don't incorporate social business strategies into their operations by 2017. So you get a year and a half. So this is all businesses. This is not necessarily specific to healthcare, but there is a risk, right? And so therefore the issue isn't whether or not you should become a social organization and just try and get beyond the walls of PR and marketing. It's how fast can you get there?
So is the problem social or is the problem media? I think they're both problematic terms.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not just social.
Yes,
Not just
good point.
Exactly.
people.
You hear social, you just think Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, right?
It
When it's,
trivializes it.
yeah.
It does. Well, and people think it's very easy to do because everybody's got a Facebook account. Everybody experiences the internet, so everybody thinks they're an internet expert. Well, I don't like that color there. Or I don't like that link there. Well, who gives a crap?
Does anyone else cringe when you hear someone say, oh, I have a, nephew, son / kindergartner doing my social for me, and it's like, oh man, would you give your business its largest, bullhorn to a 5-year-old or, a 17-year-old? Anyone can learn the tools, right? But understanding what you're trying to do as an organization is much, much harder. That's at least what I always tell folks. The other part of this is the opportunity. So this is positive correlation. This is a McKinsey report. So 20% of businesses who have adopted social business practices see more revenue and 60% higher profit growth. Now, this is correlative because everyone knows it's very hard to draw that line, right, between, okay, I posted something on Facebook, they came to our website, it's rain and patience. It doesn't really work like that, right? and same thing for lots of other industries as well. And a lot of times when I talk to folks about social ROI, they're actually using either partial modes of ROI to try and calculate it. So for example, I talked to one business recently that is they're a technology business, but they're a relationship-driven, long sales cycle, enterprise-level business. But they were looking at their website referrals in terms of trying to track ROI. And I'm like, well, that's not how you sell things, right? And they're like, no. But the reason why people default to the website tracking is because that's the one thing that they can really measure. So, setting up ROI and not just thinking of it in terms of, referrals from a blog or whatever it may be is really, really important. All right, so a couple things I want to talk about before we get into tactics. So this doesn't mean diagnosing illnesses on Twitter. This means putting your organization in a place to capitalize on the opportunity to deliver pertinent information and connecting with the right people. Sorry, I talked a little bit about this, but barriers to social media adoption. How many people here is privacy and security a concern within their organization? Probably everyone, right? How many people would say that's prevented them from doing anything, making their program bigger or doing some of the things that they want to do? Yeah, that's a big one. Does anyone go through a legal workflow to have to post anything online? For example, if you write something, do you have to send it to your legal team first before it's... No one here? No. Sometimes? Okay. With some organizations, I've worked with, literally they can't post anything unless like a whole team of lawyers goes through it, which is really, gets in the way of being able to be nimble and have those, one-on-one conversations instead of a broadcast media. How many people here think that they really could do with more headcount? Everyone, right? We all need more people. What about in terms of budget? Does everyone think, do you work in institutions where they think social's free? Therefore everything is free about it, including your time?
Well,
right.
Our board went to a leadership institute out in California, a couple of our
Yeah.
board chair and vice chair, and saw a presentation by the head of social media for the Mayo Clinic. So they're all about it now. And what does the Mayo Clinic have? 38 people.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I have a team of 3 that is responsible for all of marketing, all of fundraising and development, grant writing, all of social media.
Right. So were you able to bring that up and say, hey?
Oh, I brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have my job.
Yeah, exactly. And really all that comes down to is, they'll go to a conference like that and see this pinnacle, this pillar of, social media excellence, whether that's Mayo Clinic, whether that's Cleveland Clinic, they do a great job too. Institution here that I think does a wonderful job is Dana-Farber. I have a couple examples from them, but they do. You're from there? Yay! They do a wonderful job. Really impressed with the content they create. So there's a lot of different areas that we need to address. But the biggest one really is that technology has really, really matured, especially in regulated industries. We've seen, at least at Hootsuite, a lot of regulated industries, especially finance and healthcare now, are getting interested in expanding their social media programs because there's technology out there such as automated compliance tools, automated scanning and enforcement of HIPAA. There's automated discovery of rogue accounts. Who here works at an institution where people can think that they just will create a Twitter account just because they want to? Oh my God, yeah, I can tell in your face, you're like, I'm so sick of that. Right, well there are tools out there that can help you discover these sort of things. SSO integrations, workflow and things like enforced review by either legal or other folks within the organization. So the technology has really, really matured in the recent years because, like I was saying, some other industries like tech and media are really kind of ahead of the curve, and the regulated industries, part of the reason why they're playing catch up a little bit is because, well, the technology didn't really suit their needs until now, but now it's here. So some of the other things too, so some of the solutions, like I was saying, there are some third-party platforms. Hootsuite is one of them. Like I said, not here to sell you on Hootsuite. We're an example of one. But they're usually with third parties, like instead of posting natively, right? That's a huge security risk, especially if you're posting for, say, a CEO or you're really co-managing their accounts. I used to do that when I was at Constant Contact, and I had this thing set up in Hootsuite that would make me double check before I posted for our CEO, because I never, ever wanted to make the mistake of publishing something that was not meant for our CEO's feed. So there are lots of different security checks that you can have on a third-party platform. So I suggest you, if you're not using Hootsuite now or a third-party platform at all, definitely look into one. We talked about social data loss and compliance platforms. There's automated archiving systems that can archive every single piece of information that's on any of your social media pages. And then, instituting specific policies. I'm sure all of you have really specific policies within your organizations. A lot of times those aren't really in English, right? I feel, is that true of your organizations? you know, is there something kind of convoluted but not really specific about how they should manage social? No? Yes? Okay. But what I find sometimes is that policies are so vague and they're not specific enough that people get really afraid, right? And they really don't know what to do, so they do nothing. And then I think the real way you can make that impact is to have ongoing social media education within your institution. That's really the name of the game. You're not going to change this overnight, but finding allies across the organization and educating them, that's one of the tactics that I used when I was at Constant Contact, was that I knew I wasn't going to get, say, our whole sales team to utilize social right away, but I found a few individuals who were using it on their own or seemed interested in it, and I keyed in on them, and I made them examples, and I made them case studies for the rest of the organization.
You had a place of Constant Contact, you had trouble getting adoption?
Well, I find anyone outside of PR and marketing, they're like, why do I care, right? Why does a salesperson care? Why does someone in product marketing care, right? So that's not to, you have to, I still find at all the organizations that I, talk to and I'm, advising, adoption outside of PR marketing is very difficult. And that's just part of education and making sure that you're addressing also their needs, right? So one of the things I find that folks in marketing sometimes don't do a good job of is figuring out how to format social, to figuring out how to allow them to use social to meet their business goals. A lot of times we come in with that marketing lens and we're like, you need to support the brand, so you should tweet this out, instead of saying, hey, this is how you can use LinkedIn to support all of the research that you're doing, and here's how to raise your profile, and here's how to support what you're trying to do as an individual and as your specific business area. So I would say there's a couple of things here. Does anyone else feel change fatigue? Yeah, a big sigh right there. I do, and I've been doing this since 2007, and I do this for a living, and there's a lot going on. But there's knowing what to do, and then there's knowing what not to do too. So we'll talk about that as well. But don't try to do everything. We had talked about, omni-channel is important, but do a few things well. Don't try to do everything, because then everything will either be bad or mediocre. Key in on the things that you think you can do really well and you can execute on, and then when you have those down, then move on to the next thing. So we'll talk about, I think we have 7 different channels we're going to talk about. That doesn't mean that I'm saying, hey, everyone needs to get on all these 7 channels right now. That means, hey, if you recognize an opportunity that you can capitalize on, or if there's something that you want to move into because you're already doing well in a few other channels, then you want to move in there. And I would say too, embrace your role as digital Sherpa. Part of that fatigue, does anyone get people coming to them about any random social media question within their organization, whether it has to do with, yeah, I see some nods there. Like, what kind of questions do you get?
I get people that come to me, so just this week we had a cast tech who's testing out some new gadgets or whatever, which is great. It's like, and you should take my picture and post it all over social media.
A great idea.
Right, we don't have these things yet, and
right, and you kind of become the internal expert for a variety of things, which can get really exhausting, but you know what? You're the one that they're going to, right? And eventually, when you want to go larger in your organization and you want to come to them and you have a business proposal that's going to say, hey, this is how we can use these emerging technologies in a variety of different ways. It's not just a PR channel. It's not just a broadcast channel. Here's how we can get, here's how we can connect with our community. Here's how we can deliver a great patient experience. They're going to be more apt to listen to you. So embrace that role. Again, ongoing education. When I go and I talk to different organizations, and I talk to organizations that are small to Fortune 500 companies, real, like thousands and thousands of people being active on social, and what I know it's going to be successful or not if they have a decent education program in place. Honestly, it's not the tools, it's not all this fancy stuff. It's, are people invested in training and education? And I consider training and education 2 separate things. Training, I think, is a tool set. Education is how to use it. And again, that how might be different depending on their role. The other part is clearly defining your business use case. Sometimes I feel like we can get so in the weeds, and again, people are coming to us for all this. We have a lot that's going on. We have to wear so many different hats that sometimes that use case for different business areas isn't completely crisp. Getting that really crisp can really support your, kind of what I was talking about before. Like, so you have probably have a marketing or a PR use case that is really strong. But in terms of, say, you wanted to expand social to say your HR recruiting team. They're not going to use social in maybe the same exact way that you would. They might be using their personal LinkedIn and Twitter profiles to do recruiting activities. So what you're going to recommend for them is going to be different than what, say, you might be posting on the brands page. And how they, develop their profile is going to be different how you do it for your brand because they're a person, right? So knowing the different use cases across the organization is really helpful for getting adoption laterally. And when you get adoption laterally, then the C-levels start to notice, and then you get bigger budgets, and then you can do cooler things. This last point here too, comparing against a traditional media budget. I say this with a word of caution. I don't love compare. Oh, this is a little blurry actually. I just noticed that. There we go. That's a little better. Sorry. If your eyes weren't wrong, it was just the. So sometimes it's helpful for people who are familiar with traditional media to wrap their brains around the value of social if you can equate it to traditional media. It is not the same thing. So, a push message that you pay to have people's eyes or ears on is not the same as someone who's reading your messages, who's already opted in, but it can be helpful for some of those conversations. So use that wisely. All right, so last thing, before we get into some tactics here, is a social business checklist. Number one, audit your channels. What do you have going on? What do your channels look like? So all your corporate channels, are there rogue channels going on? Who do you need to talk to and kind of slap on the wrist? Or who do you need to, conversely, say, hey, what you're doing is great, let me help you. Come here. That sort of thing. Writing a clear vision statement. So vision meaning future looking. One or two sentences. This could be, we want to enable person-to-person connections in distributing healthcare information through trusted channels. That might be your vision statement. High-level strategy. So strategy is what you're doing. Tactics are how you're doing it. For example, you might be supporting talent acquisition by enabling and educating recruiters. That might be one strategy. KPIs. They don't necessarily have to be numbers. Maybe it's a goal that you want to achieve for adoption. And KPIs can differ based on kind of your social maturity curve as well. If you're early on, you might really be focused on building your audience. If you're in the later stages, that's when you can attach some more business-oriented goals or business-oriented KPIs to what you're doing in your social channels. Create a budget. Some of you may have this already, but in terms of your future vision, how much is it going to cost you? If you can't put a number on it, you're not going to get it, right? So think ahead in terms of what you might need in terms of headcount, in terms of your tools from a growth perspective, not just what you need now, but what you might need 3 years from now. And guess what? You might not get it that first year. It took me a whole year. So I was a one-woman show for a whole year. I think I was doing 3 people's jobs. And then it took me a year to sell it in to our leadership. After that year, I tripled my budget and doubled my headcount. So it can take that long, but if you keep beating that drum and showing the value, then you'll be able to get there. The other part was, seeking out champions within their org. Again, that means laterally across the organization. Does anyone here now, do they work with, say, their HR recruiting team? Anyone within? Is there anyone else outside of PR and marketing that you could work with today to expand a social program laterally across your organization?
Yeah, Erica, we work with a lot of HR departments
Yeah.
for recruitment campaigns, and it totally depends on what positions are hot, what they need, whether
Yeah.
it's ER docs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Also working with physician relations, often they're set aside for marketing, so
Yeah.
helping them with using social media to reach out to physicians.
Okay, great. And what is there any tactics you recommend in terms of physician relations there?
Yeah, I think one of the things people do, and especially, we're all victims of working 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, so we use our social media the same way we travel to and from work. So like with physicians, one of the things we do is we use Twitter a lot, and we will do 4:30 in the morning to 6:30 in the morning, and then late in the evening. And that tends to be when docs are online using Twitter.
You know why? Because of this guy, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Who's guilty of waking up? You're laughing because I know you do it. I do too. Who's guilty of waking up and turning to this thing and scrolling before they're even out of bed? Right? Yeah, all of us do it. And it's after work too. Like you're saying, timing can be really important. So in terms of, that's such a great point, because in terms of, when you're posting, if you do it when you get to the office, well, guess what? Most other people are already at work, right? That actually plays in very nicely to scheduling and third-party platforms too. So, hey, I didn't say it. He did. He did. Okay. So let's move on here. So we talked a little bit about social fatigue, and this is why, because this is what this looks like. This is a mess. There's so much going on here. So this is everything from, broad mass appeal social networks to niche social networks, say like Instructables or Goodreads, Yik Yak, Medium. This is all here. So this is, no one can really keep up with all of this. Not, like I said, not even the pros. So if you feel overwhelmed when it comes to this stuff, it's okay. We can all hug each other here. No, we can all feel this. So, but like I was saying before, building an effective social strategy is just about knowing what not to do as it is about what to do. So let's bring this a little bit more into focus. Okay, this is a little bit better here. And so this is 6 of the main social networks. I'll just give you some interesting stats here. These actually might be good stats for leadership too, because in terms of who you might be reaching. 72% of adults who are online visit Facebook at least once per month. YouTube reaches more citizens in the US age 18 to 34 than all of the cable news networks, all of the cable networks combined, all right? I didn't even realize this until recently, but there are people making millions of dollars on YouTube who just record themselves playing video games, and people pay to watch. That's how I knew I got old, because I was like, I can't even understand why someone would want to do this, but that's really the power.
Staff is doing it. He's gonna,
Wait, like he's recording himself and making?
He records himself. He records himself playing video games, and he recorded himself opening video game systems, and actually brings in somewhere between $70 and $80 a day just on the archived video of him opening his PS4.
That almost makes me want to cry. But that's where we are. That's amazing. Literally opening a box?
Just opening the box. He asked for the day off work, got in line, got it at midnight, had a video up by 2 a.m. He's got like 2 million views, and he just brings in like $50 a day on ads.
Makes you think of content differently, huh?
Sure does.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff.
I won't go through all these here, but a few other things to note. 23% of Pinterest users visit the site at least once a day. As most of you probably know, the majority of users are female. Also very affluent. The average yearly income for a Pinterest user, $75K. Very affluent users, which is why retail brands love it, but healthcare industry is doing some really great things on Pinterest. Mayo Clinic is one of them that I think is doing a really great job. Instagram, 26% of all adults use Instagram. Who here has their institution on Instagram? Couple. What do you use it for? What type of?
Well, just, staff accomplishments, events that we do.
Yeah, so.
Not heavily as we're
Yeah.
starting to.
Okay. Anyone else wanna?
We just started actually like last month.
Oh, nice.
And,
Congrats.
yeah.
New channel.
We do kind of like behind the scenes stuff, like stuff that's going on, like with maternity or.
Yeah. Are you posting that on Instagram right now?
I'm posting that one.
Yeah, so I like it, but it would be good, like you said, it'd be good to get more people on it. 'Cause it's kind of like me trying to do behind the scenes, but I know there's other stuff going on. That
Right.
maybe other people could be taking pictures of.
Right, yeah, and submitting them to you, and you could. Yeah, so I hear that a lot, actually, a lot of behind the scenes, like this is our company culture, this is what's going on Instagram. The other cool thing too, and I'll get into this a little bit later, is that you're creating a great photo library, right? When you're on Instagram. Everyone knows that Instagram, Facebook, same company, right? So you can So it's a great, Instagram's a great app on your phone to make those pictures really beautiful, but you're also creating content for all your other channels as well, which is nice, 2 for 1. All right.
What do you think about, maybe you can get this, tell me if I'm correct.
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think about automatically, when something gets posted on one channel, having it automatically like populate other channels? Should they be different content for different channels?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. So every channel is a little bit different, and if it's not, it should be, because if all your channels are the same, why am I going to follow you on multiple channels, right? The only one I would suggest doing, as you described, kind of just mass posting is Google+. And the reason why is because there just isn't a whole lot of activity on Google+ right now. It's still trying to find its way. They just launched this new thing called Collections. It's still trying to figure itself out because it's a bunch of engineers trying to create a social network, and I'll just stop there. I work with lots of engineers. I love them.
If you post it on Facebook on a company page, have that also post to Google+.
Yeah, so I would say that the only network that you can just like kind of automate is Google+, because honestly, I just wouldn't spend the resources really developing that network. However, it is worth posting content that you are creating, so say on your blog or anything from your website, because Google+, owned by Google, SEO, it can help you get that content indexed. So it's a smart idea to say automate your blog posts to Google+, but don't waste your precious resources like trying to create something new for Google+. But your other platforms, there's different behaviors, right? Even if you have the same piece of content, you can use it on multiple networks, but sort of the spin that you're going to put on it is a little bit different. Never mind that there's different character counts for every network. There's different ways that pictures are rendered. They all have different sizes. They all do different things. So for example, on Facebook, you might use a tone of voice that's much more colloquial. Maybe you're trying to reach more patients, whereas on LinkedIn, you might be looking at that more as a professional/recruiting tool. So even if you're posting the same blog post, the content that you put around that is going to be different, right? So you can reuse content, but I would just say make your, say you have a link to a blog post, make the text a little bit different for each one. Plus, with LinkedIn, with Facebook, people have different usernames, and to optimize, and we'll get into this, some of the content, you're going to want to tag their usernames, and that's going to be different, right, across different platforms. So the way you tag someone on LinkedIn, that might not necessarily be their Twitter name. Their institution name might be different on LinkedIn versus Twitter, so it's hard to double up with some of them.
Do you see any strategic way to use Vine at this point? I have an 11-year-old that's like all he ever.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you ask about Instagram, that's old. Facebook.
That's old.
He's never even heard of Facebook.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, Vine's really interesting. So you can use it in the same way I think you could use Instagram. It's just video, right? And Instagram, there's 15-second video too, so it's similar. 7 second. Thank you for correcting me. So it's all similar. I think it's a great branding tool. I'm not sure there's a huge correlation between posting your Vine videos and whatever you want to define as ROI. But hey, it's cheap in terms of being able to experiment with it. Again, great culture. And you could do like little interviews. You could do that to introduce. You could use that channel to introduce people to your people, right? To people. So if you wanted to just show pictures of or show little clips of your, nurses or administrators or doctors or whoever it is, just having that human face there can be really strong for making that sort of connection. So different ways you can use it. Yeah, I think a lot of brands have jumped on it. I don't have a ton of stats in terms of Vine. It was one of those networks that came on really strong, and then Instagram had video, and then I don't see that one as a major player, but you know what? Experiment with it.
Decided to drop our MySpace profile.
Oh, no. Did you really have one? No? Oh, I was going to be impressed for a second. Yeah, this might be a good time to stop and ask if there are any other general questions before we kind of go on to some deep tactical. Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if it's appropriate now or later, but in terms of the demographics, you kind of touched on that of each channel.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going for a mature audience versus female, I mean,
Yeah, so Facebook is by far the largest social network. So last year, there were this is off the top of my head, 1.28 billion users on Facebook. So that's everyone, right? Actually, the fastest growing segment on Facebook is 55 to 65.
It's because everybody else already has a Facebook.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's really your home base. I mean, there have been so many reports, teenagers are abandoning Facebook. Kind of. They're still there. But as far as I know, teenagers aren't really making that many healthcare decisions yet, so no need to worry about that yet. But the thing that you can do in terms of targeting, right? So Facebook is really your home base, but you can target. Everyone knows you can target posts, either paid or organically by different segments of the population. So for example, so you could target, some healthcare information towards females that follow you versus males, if something's more female oriented. You could target posts that are more about, geriatric care towards an older audience or their healthcare, if you want to, or their caregivers rather. You could do that as well. So there's ways to segment within channels at particular demographics. In terms of which channels, here, let me back up here. The ones that tend to be a little bit younger are just the newer ones, right? So Instagram tends to skew a little bit younger. LinkedIn is really, it does skew a bit older just because it's more of a professional network, but really it's sort of what's the purpose of each? There's kind of a digital body language that's unique, kind of like what we were talking about before with, the posts that you create might have the same content, but a different flavor on each one. There's a little bit of a unique body language with each network, but you can certainly target within those networks as well. And there are organic options and paid options.
Can you talk a little bit about Periscope?
Yeah. Who is anyone periscoping right now? You are? Not right now. We can do it now.
Like live streaming? Is that what it's?
That's exactly right. So Periscope and Meerkat. Meerkatting, now a verb, guys. Periscoping, now a verb. So essentially, it's live streaming, but through your Twitter feed. So people can see that you are live streaming, and actually, it was the boxing event that people were getting in trouble with the FCC. Remember that? Because they were live streaming basically bypassing the cable networks. I've seen a lot of cool things that different brands have done with Periscope and or Meerkat so far. A lot of them have been, in fact, our CEO just did this, like a AMA, Ask Me Anything, via Periscope, so all the questions would come in via Twitter. So it's a live feed, but also there's Twitter conversation going on at the same time, kind of superimposed on the feed. So it's a great, if people want to ask questions, a lot of people get involved with Twitter chats, or I even ran some Facebook chats before, and that's a great way to be able to do it as well. So it's making that kind of connection. Did that answer your?
Yeah, so it's really for like a live chat.
Yeah, live chat, or what if you want to? Here's an idea too. You could give someone a tour of your institution, right? You could do that. You could do an interview. You could show someone what their experience might be like when they come for the first time. Show them come through the door. Just kind of making this up on the fly, but whatever that might be. It could be an event. Like say you're hosting an awards event and you want to show like one of your leaders who are getting an award, or you want to showcase a particular patient that you're profiling or whatever it is, you would be able to.
I just want to shoot video and edit it and throw it up.
Because it's real time.
Right. So like a childbirth, or not that we can.
Yeah. You could, right? But yeah, that's.
So for more, okay.
Yeah, it's because, well, that's the thing, right? With social, everything is live in real time. So with the difference between that and say something that you might produce and edit and something that looks nice, that would be something that is, something that you want to use on multiple channels, something that's evergreen versus an event that's very timely. And you could and honestly, it's a brand new channel, so go forth and experiment. Who knows if it'll even be around next year. But yeah, so I would say anything that's very timely, live events, you could do that. Did I see another hand? Might have been the flag waving back there. All right. So in terms of so we went over all of the strategy pieces and thinking of those different pillars. So, peer-to-peer, online discovery, being able to recruit great talent, all the different ones. So I would encourage you to think of these tactics as they might relate to those pillars or whatever ones are important to your organization. So, but when it comes to tactical or comes to tactics, there's basically 3 basic buckets that any tactic should fit in. And if it doesn't, then you should probably evaluate why you're doing it. And that is building your audience, so increasing the amount of people in your sphere, nurturing the relationships that are, in the sphere that you just built, and then asking for something in return. But you have to do the first 2, especially the nurturing part, before you can ask for something in return. So let's start off with Facebook. So for the most part, people come to Facebook because they want to see what their friends and family are up to. Sorry, they're not there to see what your brand or your institution is doing. But that's okay. Keep that in mind, because your job is to take advantage, to capitalize on that share of attention while they're there. So the type of content, to your point earlier, it should be brief and casual. Lots of visual content. 87% of the posts that get shared on Facebook is a photo. 87%. So even if you have, and a lot of you do this, I know, even if you want to share a link to a blog post, make sure it has a big photo attached to it too. So in terms of Facebook, we're capitalizing on the share of attention. We need lots of photos. When it comes to how many times do you post and when do you post and all that sort of stuff, I consider Facebook a low volume, high value network, which means you don't have to post 3 times a day. You probably don't even have to post every day. Maybe, excuse me, oh my gosh. Once a day is probably fine. But if you compare that with, say, excuse me, Twitter, where Twitter is a hungry beast and it needs a ton of content to go. It's each post on Twitter is, I would say, low value, high volume, just in comparison. Excuse me. And then beyond content, who here knows about the Facebook algorithm? Can anyone explain it? Well, Facebook doesn't even really explain it because there's a lot of money and people like me get paid to try and game it. But basically what that Facebook algorithm means, and some people refer to it as EdgeRank. Facebook doesn't like you to refer it as EdgeRank, but whatever. That's what kind of the industry term for it is. When you look at your Facebook feed, it's not in chronological order, right? Everyone has noticed that. Anyone wonder why they're seeing the things that they're seeing? So everyone, every engagement that you have with the post is basically a vote to Facebook that you like content that's either like this or from this person or from this organization, right? So say Kevin posts something and he's one of my friends, or maybe he's managing a page that I follow, and I like that post. Facebook says, hey, Erica likes what Kevin is posting. I'm going to show her more of Kevin's stuff. And so engagement is tied to visibility on Facebook, which is why engagement is really important. And so one of the things I describe to folks sometimes is sometimes Facebook posts that aren't driving at a particular business goal. Maybe it's not driving at a sign up or driving at an event or listing your business hours. And sometimes you can get folks within your organization saying, hey, why are you posting stuff that's not driving towards something that we know produces, more patients or more revenue, whatever it may be. And the reason why is because people don't necessarily engage with that stuff, and they might not see it if that's what all you post. So I call this sort of stuff that's very engaging, but sort of things that that will get a lot of comments and a lot of likes and a lot of activity. I call this fluff with a purpose. Because if people engage with that, see, you're vigorously shaking your head.
We just posted a photo of an employee who had been with us for 50 years. So 50th anniversary, everybody, exactly. But everybody did that, just
right.
Celebrating her accomplishment. It had nothing to do with any healthcare content at all. But it's fluff with a purpose.
Right, because all of those people who engage with that post are infinitely more likely to see your next post and your post after that and your post after that.
I'm pretty cynical about this. I know that there's fluff with a purpose.
Yep, sure.
But I follow a lot of people that are fluffy and have an occasional purpose, but don't always show up in my news.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's a black and white issue.
Well, Facebook doesn't publish exactly what's in their secret sauce, because then, like I said, people like me would totally take advantage of that, and that's why we can't have nice things, because marketers ruin it. No. But that's the idea, and it's very complex. I can tell you that, in terms of, because your web is so huge of the people that and there's sponsored posts, and so there may be things that you're not seeing. But if you're not, if you start, I would challenge everyone here should take a challenge. If there's someone that they're not seeing in their feed, or a page that they're not really, that they know that they follow, that they're not seeing, like a few posts, comment on it, share something, and then see if it pops up more for you, because it's over time.
Lazy, news feeder.
Well, that's the thing. If you're looking at it but not saying like and not engaging, then you're basically telling Facebook, I don't care about this. So
with the algorithm, if you comment rather than like, you'll be much more likely to see their post. So it's the level of engagement.
That's a very good point too. Comments are weighted more. Shares are weighted very highly. They're very hard to get.
I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
So a quote-unquote social media expert shared that
I'm gonna like this, right?
shared that when you post to Facebook through Hootsuite, it doesn't
I know what you're gonna say.
show up as off.
So you can research this. This was a glitch in Facebook's algorithm in 2011, and they fixed it within a month. And people were saying all third-party platforms that Facebook penalizes you. This has been a myth that's been around for years. Yeah. And I'm not just being paid to say that. You can research it there. Like it was true for about a month or two, but then Facebook corrected that. And it's in their best interest, right? Because any company who spends or most companies that spend significant dollars do that through a third-party platform. So it's in their best interest to play nicely with us and others like us. So yeah, sure, you can research it. That's believe it, I get that all the time.
And since then, I've always been posting to Facebook, which takes more time.
Right, exactly. No reason to do that. Okay, so our 3 buckets: building an audience. So cross-promoting your Facebook page and other channels. So I don't just mean on the bottom of your website, those little tiny tokens that say Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn at the bottom, right? Did you know, so one thing you can do is embedding a Facebook post in an email. Did you know you could do that? Here, this might be a little bit tricky. I wanted to show some live examples, but I only have one screen, so let's see if we can do this. All right. So one thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to show you where to get that. So if we come up here to, this is I have a lot of fake Facebook pages, so I demo stuff a lot, so this is not real. But if you wanted to embed a Facebook post within, say, an email or a website, all you have to do is come to one of your Facebook posts, hit this little caret, and you get the embed post. And so you can grab that little tag here. It'll be a little div tag. You can copy and paste into your website. You can copy and paste that into an email. So instead of having just those little tiles that really no one pays attention to anymore, there's ways to cross-channel promote that are a lot more engaging. So say you had a great Facebook post and you want to put that in an email instead of a follow us on Facebook, which is like kind of tired and everyone does that. Put something cool that they might want to see and have a follow button in there. The other thing you can do is, make it easy to be found on Facebook. There's a ton of, here's an example from Harvard Vanguard. There's a ton of institutions that when I was doing my research, that didn't really post their hours or where they were or how to contact them. Make it really easy for people to find you. So here's another example of someone who's doing it right. Go to Harvard Vanguard. You know what's cool too that I really liked is that they have this video here as well that talks about what their institution is all about. They have a map. They have all sorts of information. So make it really easy for people to find you. Put all the relevant information here. If you have office hours, if the time is limited, put that in there too. And then interacting with your local organizations. So I'll pull up a familiar example here. Come on. Here we go. I'm going to have so many tabs by the end of this. So here's one here that I really liked. So Dana-Farber here, notice how they tagged their partner organization here? You know what that does? If you're the page manager of Red Sox, you get a little notification that says, hey, they tagged you, right? It's a way of getting more engagement, right? So making sure that you're tagging, and this is true of any, of course, social network, but making sure that you're tagging all the appropriate people when you're partnering with those organizations. Sure.
I run a hospital page, and we on our privacy settings purposely have like limited tagging abilities, so people can't kind of tag us anywhere.
Yeah.
But it also inhibits other people from tagging at us. Is that, do I have something set up wrong, or?
You know what? Why don't you show me at the end, because I'd need to kind of look at it and see. But you're saying that you don't allow other people to post on your, yeah, which makes sense.
Without approving it first.
Yeah, got it. Okay, yeah, come find me after. We'll figure it out. And so that all is just a really good engagement tactic to make sure that you're pinging sort of the other pages. It'll get them. They might even share it, get it in front of their audience. You know, you'll increase your views on that. All right. So next thing is nurturing relationships. Let me again toggle back here. All right, big photos, little text, relevant topics, timely posts. How many people here create a content plan every week and know what they're going to post? Good, good. How often does that just get blown up? So yeah, you get it. Yeah, they're supplemented. That's a good one. So I like to say have a plan it out. So there's a lot of evergreen content you can put in your calendar. But things happen. Social is all about being timely, so make sure that you can adjust as well. I'll show you some examples in a moment. And then obviously being responsive. So a few examples of these. So let's go to this example from North Shore Medical. Oh, you guys didn't even see my, did you see my slide that I had up there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Usually they're mirrored. I have one in front of me and one behind me. So this is a great tip that North Shore Medical had, and it's just a photo, and they actually superimpose the text over the photo. I'm not sure I agree with this, because I really like bacon, maybe sometimes, right? But this is a great way of getting attention, or gathering attention, because it's a photo, and it's going to get many more views and that many more shares than something that was just straight up text. Or something that's helpful. So here's a Harvard Vanguard example. Let's come up here. Here's an example of fluff with purpose. What does this have to do with anything? The extra hole. It got, look at all the people who are 13 shares. Like, what the hell? And all the rest of you know, it's like it's a shoe. But if you look at their page, all the ones before and after, we're getting like 3 likes, 4 likes. But this one about the shoelace, right? But because they did this one with the shoelace, the ones after, we're going to get in front of more people, right? And so they'd recognize this as something that, hey, I bet a lot of people are going to click the like button or the share button on this, and they did. So here's an example of that fluff with purpose. Another example of something that's especially timely and relevant. We don't want that. So here's an example. This is reminds me of the example you just said. This is a TBT, Throwback Thursday, graduating class, I'm kind of in the way, of Beth Israel, 1921. 92 people like this, 92, it's a huge amount. And that's sort of why, because it's emotional, because it's part of the Throwback Thursday meme, because people like, it's, again, that connection, it shows people, and it's something, relevant. Oh, look at Laurie Smith, she's there on the right. No, that can't be, she wouldn't. She's lying. That's not real. But that's just an example of capitalizing on something that's something you can do that's regularly scheduled, right? Making sure that you have something for that every Thursday. So yeah, so all of those different pieces, and of course being responsive as well. I read something yesterday, and I wish I'd clicked save on the tweet, but someone had tweeted that anyone who responds to their tweet, this is specific to Twitter, has done more for them than all of the advertising dollars that they could ever spend. So I know that within this industry, there's a lot of regulations and restrictions. Sometimes you have to be really careful about who you respond to and what you do and what you press like on. But where you can, you're going to create that connection by being responsive so much more than like crafting the most awesome post, right? People want to be heard. And that's the whole point, like what Dan was talking about earlier, of social being a two-way street. If you're just using that as that one-way broadcast, you're really only doing half of the work and really only getting probably not even half of the benefit. All right, so the last thing for Facebook, just push this back up here, is ask for action. So 10 to 20%, I like the 80-20 rule. This should be a business ask. So that could be anything like, you know, sign up for our email list. Like I worked at Constant Contact, so I really like the email plus social integration there. We can talk email after. We can, you know, adding a call to action to your Facebook page. Does anyone know you could do that? I'll show you where to get that in a second. Utilizing social campaigns, meaning, you know, getting people to opt into something, using a landing page, getting people to submit photos. You can use Facebook, you can utilize Facebook ads to capture leads, for example, and ask for reviews as well. So let me show you a few examples of these. So, so I like to relate this to dating. So, you know, when you first go on a date, when you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to say, hey, let's get married right now, or hey, you know, come home with me right now. You talk to that person, you ask about what they're interested in, you learn about them, you have a conversation, and then you make the ask. And this is what this is like, right? Because people don't have to pay attention to you. You're pulling, right? You're pulling them in, you're making them excited to want to be part of, you know, what you're sharing and making yourself accessible. So kind of think with that dating mindset, which is, you know, 10 to 20% of what you're doing should be direct because you need to hit pay dirt at some point, but it has to lead up to that. And so all these other pieces, the adding the call to action, the utilizing campaigns. So let me give an example here of what I mean. So this is a really good call to action that's based on recruiting. So they're interviewing folks, North Shore Medical Center, and they're saying, these are our times, come on in here, here's the link, apply. So this is an example of an ask that's based on business goals, right? So this is recruiting. When it comes to, we were talking about, oops. We were talking about, where's that Facebook page I want to show you? Adding that call to action at the top of your page. Here, let's go back here. See right here, create a call to action. This is a really good way to integrate your channels. So you can pick a number of different things. Obviously, you guys probably wouldn't pick shop now. Contact us. If anyone has an app, you could put that in here. Sign up, watch a video. There's a lot of different things that you can do to integrate some of your like, on-site Facebook activities with some of the stuff you might be doing on your website, or if you want to collect names for your email lists. That's an example of an ask. The other thing too is using ads. Here, I'll go back to this to show you an example of a Facebook lead capture ad. If you're going to spend money on Facebook, especially if this is something, oh, good question.
No, you can finish.
Oh,
it's okay.
Okay, all right, I'll go back here. If you're going to spend money on Facebook, especially if your organization is new to this, you're going to want to spend it on something that is more not on the fluff with the purpose, but more focused on a business goal, right? So this is a Hootsuite example here, and so this is something. There you go. So on the left is an example of what you might see in your newsfeed, and no, we don't have your names, and we're not going to be retargeting you after this. This is something I get these all day long because I'm an employee. But see that little thing in the bottom corner that says sign up? When you click on that sign up, you come to this landing page. It's over on the right, and it's a sign up form. So very similarly, you could have, you know, an email sign up form. It could be event attendance, any of those really specific calls to action. Put some money behind those, not necessarily just a post that's doing organically well, right? Question.
So this is a little off topic, but
That's all right.
Do you have an opinion in terms of Facebook about kind of an overall enterprise Facebook page versus like different service lines. Like we always have service lines that say, oh, I want my own ENT page, or I want my own, and how does that affect kind of the overall engagement?
That's a great question, because you don't want to cannibalize your own audience, right? So I used to have 3 rules for that. Do you have a unique audience? Do you have unique content? And do you have someone to manage it, meaning not me? and if you have those 3 things, then it might make sense to have that separate page. It also, do you mean something that's like a different topic area or a different location? Because different topic area.
Reason why it couldn't be wrapped into. It seems to be an argument that, or a discussion.
Because everyone wants to do their own thing and play in their own paddling pool. But here's how if you don't think it makes sense, if you think it's just going to be more trouble than it's worth, and they're kind of, it doesn't have those 3 things that you need, I would say to them, it makes much more sense for you to use the audience that we've already created, because with one post, we're going to get in front of way more people than you have to build up your own page. And most of the time, these people just abandon it because they get tired. Yeah.
The other thing you can do is tell them that if they want to run their own page, they have to create a content calendar, and they have to monitor it 7 days a week.
Right, and
people just give up. And yeah.
But I would say that there are definite cases in healthcare where you want a separate Facebook group and maybe a private Facebook group. I mean, if you have bariatric patients who don't want to share information, no one wants to go on your hospital Facebook page and ask a question about bariatrics or even engage in a conversation about it. But if you had a private group just for them, or even just a separate group for them, they would. I think the same is true with cancer patients. They won't have those conversations on your main page. They'll go to your main page and thank the team for helping them. But really, when it comes to a care conversation and treatment conversations and networking with other patients, which is what we should be doing, then you should have a separate page.
Yeah, what's a good example of that is Boston Children's Hospital has a celiac support group, which I think what you're talking is more of the supportive sort of, that P2P element we were talking about. I think that would be a really good example. But it really, depends. There's also, I don't know if anyone in the room is involved with an organization that has multiple locations. You can do like a parent-child page structure. You can do global pages if you have, presences in different countries, for example. So there are ways of having a parent and child page. So the way that the global pages work is that it either reads your IP address, or it reads where you say that you're from, and say it will show you the page that's in the UK, specific to that location versus in the US. So there are ways of, depending on the type of organization that you have and the different types of pages that people are requesting, it can make sense. And I think the care one is also a very good example. We're about to move on to Twitter. Any other Facebook questions before we?
Table this if it's going to be answered later. One of the things that we were looking to hopefully try to do is capitalize on physical events as an opportunity to grow the, lack of a better term, social audience. We know that Facebook is our largest segment, so now. But are there any tactics and approaches of actually, using a physical face-to-face interaction to become the social interaction going forward?
So,
like, other than just putting up a sign that says, take
Oh,
a picture,
follow
or
us.
like us now, or, how do you create a lasting relationship online from a physical encounter at a non-clinical event?
Non-clinical event. So do you have email addresses of these people?
Yes. Like,
That's one way.
using them
would be tricky. Gotcha. So here's another way to do it. I've seen, and I used to run these too, you can actually have live discussions on Facebook. So like a Twitter chat, but because a lot of times with Facebook, people are just more comfortable with that platform. Not a lot of, not everyone's on Twitter. But I would host a discussion there and see if you can tell them like, hey, follow the discussion. We're gonna have a follow-up at this date and time. Here's the hashtag. You can follow us here. You might have a separate, chat stream going for that within Facebook. So that's one way. Anyone else have? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Anyone else have a? Yeah.
I was at a concert recently where the musicians actually were standing on the stage. They usually say no photographs of this, Instead, they said, everyone take out your phone, take a photo, and like us on Facebook. And there were phones everywhere. So the power of suggestion is really fairly powerful.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's another way that you would be able to use actually a social campaign to do that. So you could have people submit photos on multiple channels, and it can live in one event area. So it could be multi-channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and they can submit it using a hashtag. And then every photo from the event can be in one place. So people can go back and look, and you can say, hey, this is our photo collection, and it's user-generated content. That was a great point. Any other Facebook questions before we go to Twitter? Yeah?
Is there a difference between creating an ad and boosting a post?
Yeah.
Because I come across very often, like we put money into making a nice looking ad and you try and boost it, and it always limits the amount of characters, so it won't go through. Like the headline is free head and neck cancer screening.
Yeah.
It's too many.
So there are tons of different Facebook ad types. Boosting a post is just one. So it really depends on the type of post that you have. And actually, if you go into the I'll share this as a resource at the end, but business.facebook.com will take you through all of the ad types. And I'll throw this on screen as a resource. JohnLoomer.com, JONLOOMER. He's probably the best Facebook resource that I know of. He runs a great website, very prescriptive with all the information that he has there, and he talks a lot about ads. So he can, if you look there, there's a ton of information there, and it changes a lot too in terms of the ad types. LinkedIn has more ad types than anyone else, but I do think I'm not a purist in that I think everything should be organic. I think you certainly should use paid, but use it judiciously and experiment. And one way you can get away with it in your organization is just call everything a test and use short money and see what happens. That works better in some organizations than others, I realize. All right, so Twitter. This is broadcast, a lot of one-to-one. Well, it's kind of both ends of the spectrum, right? It's broadcast because you're reaching a large audience, but you see a lot of one-to-one conversations on Twitter as well. We had a couple of one-to-one conversations. Did you notice too the Seaport Hotel? She tweeted at me, Kate tweeted at me and said, hey, do you remember, or is it in the World Trade Center or the Seaport? And I said, my email says Seaport. In the Seaport Hotel, I did not tag them. Neither of us tagged them. They jumped right in and said, yeah, Seaport. I was like, woo, you're good. Nice job. I was like, I wanted to clap for them. So there's a way to get in on conversations in a way that's not creepy, right? So there's a lot of focus. It's hard, you need to read the digital body language, right? Because it's really easy, especially if you use some of these listening tools, right? That you can search on different keyword terms. You can kind of jump in the middle of a conversation and look like a creep. Ooh, we're kind of getting up on time here. I gotta hurry up. So you can focus on customer care. That was an example of the Seaport Hotel right there. Nurturing influencers. Keep your content really brief, right? 140 characters, ideally less, so that people can retweet you, right? So you're not taking up the character count. Low value, high volume. Beyond content, Twitter cards, which is essentially like Twitter advertising. So you can have I'll have an example in here, but essentially you could have a call to action button that's like a promoted post within Twitter. You can, that will lead you to either some kind of landing page. Lots of market data you can glean from Twitter. There's lots of listening tools that can get you a lot of interesting information. I'll show you an example of one, and also advertising. So I won't be able to show you all the examples I have queued up here. Utilizing search. Anyone go to an advanced search on Twitter? You can find the parameters that you can put in there. You can find, that's how you find your influencers. You can put in similar audiences. You can put in keywords. You can find specific tweets and accounts and hashtags all related to your industry. So go to, is it advanced? I have it in here somewhere. Twitter.com/search-advanced. Here, actually, you know what? Here's one that I'll take the time to put this one up because I think it's important enough to show you. Just how deeply you can go with this sort of search. And this is manual. There are deep listening tools like what my company does in Uberview, like Radiant 6, some of those sort of tools that will, it won't look as, it's more advanced. You can do it on different business terms, but this is essentially, you can say, I want to search for all of these words within, I don't know why this thinks I'm in New Jersey right now. Earlier it said I was in Boston. Interesting. But you could say, I want to search for any of these words. So maybe we want to do, if I'm trying to, healthcare, one word. Healthcare, oh. So we can see the top tweets in this area that are mentioning either of those terms. We can see anything that might be live. We can see accounts. So you can do a lot of research on here by using the advanced search tool. And any of those research tools I was mentioning earlier. Let me go back to our slides here. Again, being able to tag people. So take the time when you're mentioning someone to research their Twitter username. It means a lot if you tag them. Remember, we all have these in our pockets. What happens when I get tagged? I get all these notifications. You guys have been tagging, right? So whenever you tag someone, it's like, hey, I'm here. Remember me? I'm here, right? Because they're going to get pinged right in their pocket. Especially important for influencers and some of your business partners. You can connect your email to find contacts. This would be more of your personal email. So if you have, it would probably be your social media manager or whoever is, maybe you want to connect your PR manager's email. You could find some interesting contacts in there. And you can use ads to promote your account as well. So if you're in that building phase and you want to quickly, add folks to your account, you can use a promoted account to do that. Nurturing relationships. Again, big photos, little text, same thing within Twitter. Twitter cards, whenever you can see all those photos in line. If you click on it, it gets a little bit bigger. Same thing with videos. Videos play in line. Anything multimedia. I'm going to forget the exact, this is a stat I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was saying earlier how 87% of the things that get shared on Facebook is a photo. On Twitter, it's something like 80% of all retweets, don't quote me on this, is something with a photo. So photos increase engagement several times over. Hashtags, using those to group topics. You can also use a hashtag, I like this tactic, to bold a certain issue. Because when we're on Twitter, you can see, let me go to twitter.com for a second. Oops. Here we go. See how things in different colors, right? And so anything that's @mentioned or anything that is a hashtag is basically in bold. And you can customize those colors. So if you can have them be your branded colors as well. So anything that's a hashtag on Twitter natively, it's going to look bold to anyone. So even if there's, maybe the hashtag, healthcare, obviously there's a ton going on there, but maybe you want that to be bolded to your audience. That's a good tactic to use in terms of, of course, we can't look on Twitter without having Kim Kardashian. There we go. All right. All right. There we go. Then, of course, reply and respond. Some Twitter calls to action. Also, with Twitter cards, you can drive to your website. That can also be, again, a landing page to sign up for an event, sign up for your email list. You can use ads to promote key events or initiatives to specific audiences. You can do audience targeting on Twitter, so meaning you can type in a few handles of people that you want to target, and it will tell you, hey, I want to target people who are like this, for example. You can even use it to distribute surveys, ask for feedback. It's a one-on-one sort of platform, so great for having those conversations. And this is an example of a Twitter card. If you hit that Learn More button, you go to their landing page. All right, rapid fire. LinkedIn. This is for thought leadership, recruiting. I think one thing that companies, in general, companies that do well enough with is teaching folks within their organization how to use LinkedIn properly, right? Because it's that brand supporting the individual, and the individual can support the brand as well. So the content here is going to be more formal. Maybe this is more focused on experts. Maybe this is more focused on influencers and research. Vary your content. And you can target organic posts, and you can target with ads as well. So really quickly, promoting your culture and your people, especially if you're actively using this as a recruiting platform, very important. Using the native publishing platform. So some people overuse this a little bit, but you can kind of like, anyone familiar with Medium? It's a publishing, so a lot of people are moving off of having their own personal blogs and using formats like Medium and LinkedIn publishing because it comes with a pre-made audience and you don't have to get people to your own blog, you know. So a lot of people are using publishing platforms that have that audience built in. So LinkedIn publishing is one, Medium is another. We go to nurturing relationships, encouraging employees to amplify content. Again, tagging companies and people. Does anyone know SlideShare, LinkedIn integrated? Great tool, right?
Feed all your SlideShare presentations right into your LinkedIn profile.
Yep. Like and comment as your brand. Really quickly here. Premium accounts, totally worth it, especially if you're in recruiting at the highest level you can for your recruiters. And again, sponsored updates for key events and initiatives. And this is an example of a sponsored post. See that follow button up there? This sort of there's a million different kinds of LinkedIn ad types. They have a pretty good business site and they'll walk you through the different types, but this one in particular is focused on building audience. All right. Yeah, sure.
Do you see, I mean, I've been on LinkedIn a little while, but I see it's really sort of transforming into more of, less of a professional network and more of a social media content sort of. Do you think that's going to be continued, being less professional based, more content like Facebook, and because it's already changing in the past, you know, 6 months to a year or so?
Yeah.
Do you think that'll continue, or?
I don't know. I know what you mean. I see more and more people putting content that I would assume would be more Facebook appropriate, and I kind of, part of me dies every time. Every time I see that, because I think that's really not appropriate. I think that's a sign of more and more people getting involved with LinkedIn and not really having a lot of social media education, to be honest. As far as, I mean, I would never recommend that people put Facebook-like content on LinkedIn. I don't think that's a good move. I don't have a magic ball. I can't give you a black and white answer, but I would just say, probably not a good move, don't do that. But I could be wrong. That's the beauty of this. Go back a year from now and say I was totally wrong. All right, lightning round. Quick tips for the other 4 social networks we're going to talk about today. Use PicFrame. These are 2 apps, PicFrame or Layout. Layout's an app by Instagram to create collages. So you can take multiple photos, create a collage, and post that as one image either on Instagram or share that again to Facebook or Twitter. So it's a way of, great for events. You know, you can have a couple of different pictures from an event, put it in one, create a collage. Anyone use Iconosquare here for Instagram? This will be a good one. This is Instagram Analytics. Check it out. They have some awesome, it can show you the reach and engagement of your content. Great for brands. You can even run some contests via Iconosquare. It used to be called something else. It had another name. It was something, it used to be called Statagram. But then Instagram was going to sue them, so they had to change their name to something else. And then, again, I have this as a resource at the end here, but all of these different social networks have great business-specific sites. It's usually, they're all, you know, business.instagram.com, business.twitter.com. Check them out because they have great resources there, and especially for advertising, not just advertising, but they have a lot of, you know, anyone who's using it for a business purpose, that's just a great resource. And I think we talked about all these content ideas before. Employee profiles is another great one. You could have a picture of your, you know, any of your staff, whether that's administrative, whether that's a HCP, and kind of give a little interview of them right within Instagram.
Do you have any recommendation for a personal account for Instagram? Like, what is the best app to switch between those 2?
There is no app. Just, well, actually.
Like, I use Photogram, and it's kind of weird.
Well, the reason is because that's actually against Instagram's terms of service. So if they're probably doing something that Instagram doesn't allow them to do. Actually, with Hootsuite, we have an Instagram connection now, so you can manage but not post to different ones because that's against Instagram's terms of service. So you'd be able to like and comment on multiple ones, but not post. Yeah, Instagram does not allow any third-party apps at all to post. So you know, eventually I think they'll have to come out with more of a business solution, but that's just how it is right now. People have tried to build them, and they will exist for like a month, and then Instagram goes, Pinterest, verify your website. Pinterest is great for driving website traffic, so make sure you connect your website within your Pinterest settings. Do you know that Pinterest also has an analytics platform baked into it? You have to verify it as a business account, but you'd be able to see all your analytics for Pinterest as well. And then enabling rich pins. So this means having, does anyone know about rich pins? Okay, so this allows you to, for example, there's a couple different types. Recipe pins, it'll have not just the link to the recipe, but it'll have down below all of the different, ingredients that you need. There's a couple of different types of different rich pins. So you can enable those. Basically just gives a more of a better content experience for certain types of pins. And then some content ideas. So we saw earlier, that was a Facebook example of the nurses, but historical photos are a great idea for your industry. Disease and prevention topics, so organizing boards by certain symptoms and illnesses, and then research and web content as well. Because Pinterest is such a great referral source, again, having a space for your blog posts is a really good idea. All right, YouTube. All about SEO. Make sure you're think with an SEO mindset when you're creating those descriptions for videos. Make sure you're using the right tags. Organize that content just like you would organize it on Pinterest. Organize it into playlists so you have different collections based on topic types. You can even annotate. That means when a video is playing, you can kind of, anyone remember pop-up video? Yes. Yes. That was fun, huh? So pop-up video is something you could watch the video and then like a little pop-up would pop up on the screen and give you a little bit of, like a bubble, and give you a little bit of extra information about what you were watching. Same thing with annotations. You can do that on YouTube. Some content ideas, obviously patient profiles, employee interviews, healthy lifestyle tips. All right, like I was saying earlier with Google+, automate this for now. Get it on there, but automate it. And also think with an SEO mindset as well, because Google, same thing, right? So think with keywords, right? When you're creating your headlines there. Obviously, flow all your blog posts into Google+. You can try and upload photos separately. It's actually a really beautiful platform for photos. And they just came out with this thing called collections, which is essentially grouping posts by topic. So these can be text posts, they can be photos. So you can group those by topic within this new collections piece that Google+ has created. All right. I have some resources for you. All of the business sections of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. And these are some of my favorite websites and some of my favorite sources over here. Obviously, Hootsuite, if you go to the resources section, we have everything from, and we have healthcare specific tracks too, so everything from blog posts to webinars to white papers. We have more content than, I don't even know how many people we have in our content department. We have a lot of folks. So there's more content than you could ever read or watch there. John Loomer is that Facebook resource who is unbelievable. And I love Marketing Land, Moz, and Copy Blogger. They're more broad marketing blogs, but they're also great resources with social media tips as well. All right, and we still have a few minutes for questions. All right.
That last page you showed.
Yeah.
Resources, I didn't notice it in your original that you emailed to us.
Yeah, no, I added it.
Is there a way we could get
Yeah, I can send this out again. Or I can contact Kelly and have it sent out again. Oh, this is kind of an ugly little slide here, but these are some of my favorite tools as well. Videolicious is a cool little app. If you haven't used that, you can actually create videos on the fly using still photos. They have music that you can add in. That's an interesting one. Canva, that's a new tool that has recently come on the market. Follower Wonk, that's awesome for analyzing Twitter followers and seeing kind of connections between different handles. And then just to leave you with one thing, this is actually one of my favorite things right here, because a lot of times people think that social is magic. And it's kind of funny because sometimes I find that people will be, on one hand, thinking that social is going to bring on all these magical leads or magical patient referrals or whatever it may be, but at the same time be kind of dismissive. So it's just a channel, and it's helping, you guys need to help your organizations along and be that interpreter and let them see that, hey, it's not magic, it's work, and sometimes it costs money, but it's something that is part of business practice now, and it doesn't have to be something mystical. All right. Anything else that we can answer at this point, or did you need to? Oh, sorry, it looked like you wanted to run up. Oh, okay, gotcha. Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not late to the game of social media, but the company I work for is.
Yeah.
We have 18 nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and we're going to launch all these pages over a matter of a few weeks.
Yeah.
Facebook pages.
Yeah.
But I'm pushing them in the direction of doing other stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we need to do something along the lines of Hootsuite, because otherwise we'll go nuts trying to manage, everything.
Right.
So can you spend 30 seconds and just tell me how it works?
Sure. I didn't plant him, by the way, but I promise. But in terms of Hootsuite, just to give, for those who aren't familiar, and this is true of many third-party platforms, essentially what it allows you to do is to manage multiple presences, whether that's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, for example, from one dashboard. So you can either post on behalf of people, you can manage multiple pages, you can maybe co-manage your CEO's Twitter handle, for example. So basically it's about being able to schedule your content ahead of time and to manage multiple presences. And there's a couple different levels, so a lot of you might be familiar with the free tool. We have a free level, an SMB level, and an enterprise level as well, and they're all pretty different. Any other questions?
Erica, when you were talking about YouTube and some of your quick tips, I thought it was great. Just really optimizing your presence there for search. And one of the things I notice often is when you look at videos, they haven't added the location tag. And it's it's an advanced setting, but it's an easy miss. But it's so important with search for your videos. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Great point. Those tags are really important.
Can you talk a little bit more about auditing social traffic?
Yep.
Is there an easy way to listen to what people are saying about you and all these vast
I have an example. Well, there's a couple different types of auditing. There's some compliance-specific tools. One's called Global Relay, which is more about archiving. One's called NESHCo, which is an unbelievable tool for finding those rogue accounts, for archiving all your information. And they even have compliance rules in the background that can prevent anyone from posting non-compliant material either on your page, whether that's external or whether that's internal. So there's a couple of different tools there. In terms, I'll slow down. Global Relay is an archiving tool, and NEXTgate is an archiving and compliance tool. And we have tons of folks. Basically, the reason why folks in regulated industries are now getting involved in social is because of tools like those. And we integrate with both of them. But in terms of what you're saying, in terms of like search, I do have an example of what that might look like. Come back. Where did my, oh, there we go. So, this is an example of a search tool. Let me go into presentation mode here. And so I have a healthcare stream, and so say I want to search for terms around, we'll just use this stream, John Hopkins. So we're looking for John Hopkins, or we have a whole search stream, and this is pulling from across the web. So we can see, this is real time, or near real time, let me be precise. So we can see blog posts. Here, I'll just show all the different platforms we covered, message boards, news, Twitter, for example. And it can pull in any of these mentions in real time. And then beyond that, you can see some of the data that it's pulling in as well. So you can see all the individual. Yes, this is called Uberview. It's part of the Hootsuite family. It's kind of rough to see it on this. This format isn't optimized for this tool, but you can see some of the. Oh, this is my favorite thing: the map. You can click on the map and start to get pretty deep in terms of location. So lots there. I would suggest taking a peek at any sort of data analytics or social listening tools is kind of the category that it typically gets put in.
So is something like this what, for example, an airline might
monitoring? That's exactly what airlines are using, who have like JetBlue, who has all that wonderful customer service. Because a lot of times, right, folks aren't necessarily tagging especially on Twitter, they're not really doing the hard work of tagging your organization. They just might mention you and not look up your, your Twitter handle. So this is a way of listening. But again, you need a human on the other end. Never automate your customer service platform because it's that creepiness factor, right? You also need a human on the other end. You can present them with the opportunities, but you need a human deciding whether or not to engage. We never want to feed the trolls. Any other questions? And I can talk to folks afterwards too, if there's someone shy.
How do you get your Twitter handle?
Oh, that's a good question. In the Kisser. So long ago, I had a food blog because that's what the world needed. Clearly, there wasn't enough of them, and it was called In the Kisser. The food blog is long gone. The Twitter handle stuck. I thought about changing it a couple of times just to my name, but everyone seemed to remember it and they comment on it. So I keep it just how it is. In the Kisser. All right, is anything else? I guess we can end on that one.
Thank you, Erica.
Well, thanks everyone.